There will be some code question on there. So we're gonna talking about the code. And are you guys ready?
Yep.
Okay, so first there's some code question from section 26. Then there is a question from section 46. Section 26 is starting from the storage battery. Oh, I probably should share the screen with you, right? Depends on your code book because they're different versions. So your page number might not be the same as mine. But starts with 26,500. They tell you 502 to 512 apply to installation of storage battery. 514 apply to installation of other electrical equipment other than storage battery in the battery room. 502 start with special terminologies. So 504 tell you the battery with exposed live parts should be kept in the room or enclosure accessible only to authorized person, because even we know the battery is at a lower voltage, but most of them can supply large current. So if you actually short the terminal or something, you're gonna actually cause fire, burns, or even causing electrocutions. 26506, ventilation of the battery room and the area. Because we know mostly in here, they also considering about a lead acid battery. When you're charging them, they're gonna release hydrogen gas, so they need adequately vented. And also, they tell you shall not be subject to temperature greater than 45 degrees or less than the freezing point of the electrolyte. If I were you, I will highlight Appendix B, highlight the freezing point of electrolyte. Why? Doesn't work for me. Hold on a second. Didn't allow me to do it. That's fine. So let's look at this Appendix B for this rule. It says sufficient ventilation shall be provided to prevent the hydrogen gas from build up to a level of 2% by volume in the room air at any time. Because if the hydrogen gas up to 4%, it can cause fire and the explosion. That's why they gave you the 2% was the limit. And those calculation, we're probably not going to ask you to do them. But here, 26506 subrule 2 give you the freezing point for the electrolyte used in the lead acid battery. So they give you different numbers. For specific gravity of 1.15, it's negative 15 degree. If your specific gravity is 1.175, it's negative 20 degree. Or if you have a 1.2 specific gravity, it's negative 27 degree for the freezing point. The freezing point will be higher if the battery completely discharged. Then they said, therefore, battery shall not be located in area where the temperature likely to fall below negative 7 degree. So this is very important. They give you a bunch of temperature numbers, and they give you where you shouldn't be put the battery at below negative 7 degree. So those 4 numbers down here, it's all important to know. So you better know where to find this. Otherwise, you're gonna be have trouble. Good here. So that's why I ask you to highlight this and highlight the freezing point. So if you come back to here, you know where to find that freezing point. Then they tell you 26508 that the vented cell, battery vented cell shall be equipped with flame arrest. The flame arrest we talking about during the class time, right? We show the picture. Also, the cell should be equipped with pressure release vents. And 26510 give you the battery installation, the trail, rack, other surface. So there's a bunch of requirement down here. Like here, except permitted by subrule 5, cover with insulation material, have a dielectrical strength of at least 1500 volts. So that's pretty high requirement. And also, question subrule 6, battery have a nominal voltage greater than 150 volts. And with cell in rubber or composite container shall be sectionalized into group of 150 volts or less. (26.512) wiring to the battery. The wiring between cells and the batteries and between the batteries and other electrical equipment shall be A is bare conductor that shall not be taped. So you can use bare copper conductor, but if you use bare conductor, you cannot say, oh, I'm just going to be try to do something is put an electrical tape on top. So bare conductor is allowed, but then you shall not be taped in. You can use open wiring. You can use a flexible core, or you can use mineral insulated cable or aluminum sheath cable or copper sheath cable. But there will be against the corrosion. If your wiring is installed in rigid condo or electrical metallic tubing, because we know if especially EMTs, the condo or tubing should be corrosion resistant material or other materials suitable to protect from corrosions. So metal is a little bit suspect to the acid corrosion. So if you're using them, gotta be careful. The end of the raceway always be tightly sealed with sealing compounds, rubber tape, or other material to resist the entry of electrolyte by spraying or creeping. The conductor issue from a raceway through a substantial glazed insulation bushing. At least 300 millimeter conductor shall be free from the raceway where connect to a cell terminal. Raceway exit should be located at least 300 millimeter above the higher cell terminal to reduce the electrolyte creepage or spillage entering the raceway. So those are some requirements if you're using rigid condo or electrical metallic tubing. So those are the requirement for the battery. And then we're going to go to section 46. Section 46 is the emergency power supply unit equipment, exercise life safety system. Scope is applied to installation, operation, maintenance of emergency power supply unit equipment, intended for providing power to life safety system. Emergency power supply unit equipment intend to provide illumination of exercise in the event of failure of normal supply, where the emergency power supply is required by the National Building Code of Canada. This section applies to the wiring between the emergency power supply and the life safe system. Then, in the special terminology, they tell you what's a life safety system is the emergency lighting and the fire alarm system that are required to be provided with an emergency power supply from battery, generator, or a combination of therefore, and the electrical equipment for building service, such as fire pump, elevator, smoke vent fans, smoke control fans, dampers, that are required to be provided with the emergency power. Because in any type of the situation, you need to be able to operating those things. In general, emergency power supply unit equipment shall have adequate capacity and rating to ensure the satisfactory operation of all connected equipment when the principal source of power fail. So when you're sizing the battery for either the emergency power supply or unit equipment, you need to have a sizing properly to supply all connected those either the life safety system or including lighting, fire alarm, or if you're using backup generator, you also have to be able to supply anything required by the building code. Instructions. Complete instruction for operation and the care as an emergency power supply or unit equipment should be specified. Testing. So if they require you to test at least once every month to ensure security of operation. And you have to post those on the premises in a frame under glass. So it's pretty important to have those, and all those things have to be tested at least once every month. But yesterday we talked about emergency generator. You should test every week, right? Maintenance, where battery are used as a source of emergency power, the battery shall be kept in proper condition and fully charged at all time. So you have to take, you cannot use old or aged or discharged battery. You have to make sure the battery is all the time fully charged. Arrangement of lamps. Emergency lights shall be arranged so the failure of any one lamp will not leaving in total darkness the area normally illuminated by it. That's why you can see those unit equipment like in certain building, because they don't have the backup generator. Usually those smaller strip mall, you go into those battery packed lamp. They usually have 2 lamp heads, because even if one of the lamp is broken or it's not working, but you still have another lamp head can providing you with the lighting required. And also, no appliance or lamps other than those required for the emergency purpose shall be supplied by the emergency circuit. So your emergency circuit should only supply those emergency lights. Wiring method, except permitted by sub-rule 3, and those rules, the following insulator conductor shall be installed in accordance with sub-rule 2. So if you have those insulated conductor, like operation and between, and they all have to follow sub-rule 2. The insulation conductor in sub-rule 1 should be installed in metal raceway of the total enclosure type, or incorporate a cable have a metal armor or sheath, installed in reg non-metallic condo, or installed in electrical non-metallic tubing, where embed in at least 50 millimeter of masonry or poured concrete. This is pretty important because I think a few years ago, not a few years ago, I was on my last job. That was when they first allow those electrical non-metallic tubing to be allowed to use inside the building. If you guys ever working on commercial job, you know, you usually have steel studs, right? Before you either have to pull BX or you have to put a pipe like an EMT pipe or something to pull wire. That's when the non-metallic tubing first allow you can actually pull non-metallic tubing or go through the steel studs. So I was doing the fire alarm on the job, and there's another guy. He's trying to he's doing the roughing for those steel stud frame, and I was just taking the FSRs, so I know those fire alarm circuit, emergency power circuit have to be in the metallic tubing, so you cannot using we usually call that a core line, right? If you guys been working on with him, so he put a bunch of core line. He tried to pull fire alarm wire and try to pull the emergency power wire. Then I catch him. I said, "No, you're not allowed to do it." He said, "No, he said the foreman told him to do it." I said, "Oh, you're going to be in big trouble." So he go to talk to the foreman. Foreman said, "Oh, I think it's allowed." I said, "Check." That time they have a errata. I said, "Go check the errata." He says no. Then they found out they have to tear down all the core line to put those EMTs or to pull BXs for those things. Because it's a life-safe system, and you don't want to fire or something else can easily damage them. That's why they require those. So the only where they allow you to do that is non-withstand sub-rule 2, insulator conductor installed in the building of combustible construction. So when they're talking about combustible construction, usually that's a single dwelling. Like if you're wiring a residential house or townhouses, you are mostly use NMD, non-metallic sheath cable, or we call the Lumex. Then in those buildings, you are allowed to use Lumex to do the wiring. Also, Sprue 4, insulated conductor and the cable installed in accordance with Sprue 1 shall be kept entirely independent of all other insulated conductor and the equipment, and shall not be entering a luminaire, raceway, box, cabinet, or unit equipment occupied by other insulated conductor except where in transfer switch and in exit signs and the emergency lights supplied from 2 sources. So your emergency power related the cable wiring, they should be separate from a normal power supplied either the wiring or cable or equipment. The only place you can put them together is in the transfer switch, because in transfer switch we have the normal power and the emergency power. Also, some of the exit sign or emergency lights, usually we have you can hook up a 2 power source to them. So when the normal power is there, the normal power will light some of the lamps or lights partial of the circuit. And if when the normal power fail, the emergency power will supply the same signs or lights. type of emergency power supply. The emergency power supply shall be a standby supply, consists of a storage battery of a rechargeable type, have a sufficient capacity to supply and maintain at not less than 91% of the full voltage, the total load of emergency circuit for the time period required by the National Building Code, but in no case less than 30 minutes. So if you're using storage battery or those rechargeable, they have to be able to supply those equipment no less than 30 minutes. That's the minimum requirement. And the equipment with a charging means to maintain the battery in the charged condition automatically. So that's the requirement of the battery. If you use battery supplied power, minimum you got to supply the load for 30 minutes. And you have to keep the battery in charged condition. You could use a generator. And also they said the automobile battery and the lead battery not of enclosed glass jar type shall now be considered suitable under subrule 1. And they shall be used only where a deviation have to be allowed. So you cannot use the automobile battery and the lead battery not of the enclosed glass jar type. Subrule 3, where a generator is used, it shall be of sufficient capacity to carry the load and also arranged to start automatically without a fail and without undue delay upon the failure to normal supply to any transfer switch connect to the generator. So first you gotta select the generator to supply, have the enough capacity to supply all the emergency lighting or other maybe fire alarm system, all those loads. Also, the generator have to be automatic start. Those electrical conductor and the cable, they need to be protected. So that's 46204. All those power control insulated conductor cables between emergency generator and the electrical equipment located outside the generator room shall be protected against the fire exposed to provide continual operation in compliance with the National Building Code. So for those cables, because you run from a generator to those electrical equipment, they need providing certain type of the fire protection. Controls, emergency power supply shall be controlled by automatic transfer equipment that actuate the emergency power supply upon failure of normal current supply. And it's accessible only to authorized person. Overcurrent protection. Subrule 2, the branch circuit overcurrent device shall be accessed only to authorized person. audible and visual trouble sign device. Every emergency power supply shall be equipped with audible and visual trouble sign device that warns of derangement of current source and that indicating when exit sign or life safety system are supplied from the emergency power supply. Any trouble sign shall be permitted to be connected to so that they could be silenced, but a red warning or trouble lights should continue to provide a protective function. Also, when the system restored to normal, the audible sign with sound indicated the need to restore the silence switch to its normal positions. This 46212 remote lamp should be permitted to be mounted at some distance from the current supply that feeds them, but the voltage drop when the wiring feeding such lamp shall not exceed 5% of the applied voltage. We're gonna talk about that in a little bit later. We have to do some calculation based on that. Unit equipment. So following rule apply to individual unit equipment for emergency lighting only. The unit equipment usually is those battery with the lamp heads. Mounting of the equipment. Each unit equipment shall be mounted with the bottom of the enclosure not less than 2 meters above the floor, wherever practicable. So you don't want to mount those one too low because you don't want the people either damage them or bump to them or play with them. Supply connection. Receptacle to which the unit equipment is to be connected shall be no less than 2.5 meters above the floor. And there shall be no more than 1.5 meters from the location of the unit equipment. 2.5 meters above floor is they don't want you to use those receptacle for other purpose. The only purpose for this receptacle is to supply those unit equipment. And 1.5 meter is usually those one will not have a too long a core, so they want you to mount them as close as possible. Next one, this is important. The unit equipment shall be permanently connected to the supply. So for the following, you cannot use a receptacle. You have to be hardwired. If the voltage rating exceeds 250 volts, or the marked input rating exceeds 24 amps. So exceed, if it's just rated for 250 volts, you still can use receptacle, or it's rated for 24 amps, you still can use receptacle. But if they rate 250.1 volts, no one will rate like that. But that's the case, you have to hardwire them. Or if they rate 24.1 amps, then you have to hardwire them. So these two usually pretty easy to pop up on your exam. Remote lamp. The size of insulator circuit conductor to remote lamp shall be such that the voltage drop does not exceed 5% of the marked output voltage of the unit equipment, or other voltage drop for which the performance of the unit equipment is certified when connection to the specific remote lamp being installed. So that's if it didn't specify or didn't certify, usually certified by the manufacturer or by the professional engineer, you cannot exceed 5% voltage drop. Exercise, where exercise are connected to an electrical circuit, the circuit shall be used for no other purpose. So if you have those exercise circuit, usually those circuit shall not be connected to anything else. But also they allow you, notwithstanding sub-rule 1, exercise shall be permitted to be connected to a circuit, supply emergency lighting in the area where those exercise are installed. So you could install the exercise and the emergency lighting in the same circuit. So this tool is also important rule to know. You cannot use the exercise circuit for anything else, but they allow to supply the emergency lights in the same area. That's the end of section 46. So let's go to table D4. So table D4. Table D4 is for calculating DC voltage drop for remote lamps or for those unit equipment. Here's a few things. First is copper conductor, sized for 5% drop. And the table D4 gave to you is based on 6 volts for 2 conductor. So the distance in table D4 give you is already considering you have a cable go to the equipment, then another cable come back, so to form a complete circuit. One-way distance from power source measured along the conductor in meter. Also, table D4 is based on conductor temperature of 20 degrees. So table D4 is based on 20-degree temperature rating. Okay, so they give you a bunch of current rating, say 2.5, 4.25, 7, 10, 12, 15, 20. Then they talking about number of conductor, number 12, 10, 8, 6, 4. So here come a common trade knowledge. Did you ever wire those unit equipment, or you use the to supply those remote lamps, use number 14 wires? No, you never use number 14 wire. Minimum is number 12, and you have to base on the distance to do the calculation to choose a proper size of wire. Yeah, but you will still, you cannot use number 14. Yeah, usually they always go higher because how many people actually on the job to do those calculations? I barely saw too much, but they usually we go either number 10 wire. That's pretty common. Because when the time comes, especially you wire them, either most time people use BX if you still start building, and when the time to test them, you already dry water up, and then you have to turn. First, you fully charge the battery, then you have to taking the normal power off to let those battery run for the lighting for 30 minutes. And if those lights cannot supply by 30 minutes, that time you're going to be in really big trouble because everything's dried up. How are you going to replace those cables? That's why people will use large size conductor to do that. Okay, the calculation is based on this formula. L is the distance, voltage. If you have a supply voltage higher than 6 volts, you use the voltage divided by 6. If the allowable or permissible voltage drop is higher than 5%, use that to divide by 5. And this IT, you can see they give you here. The IT is the current shown in table D4, closest to the actually current. So sometimes you will have a current, sometimes you have to calculate a current. So wherever the current is, the actually current is I at the bottom. IT is the current from the table. Then LT is the one-way distance in meter shown in table D4. So that formula, you'll need to be able to use it. You're going to have a calculation question for sure. The good thing is they give you an example down here. So if you ever forgot, and those type of calculations sometime will show up on your IP. So they give you this type is a 12 volts supply, 7% allowable voltage drop, and the actually current is 3 amps. They're gonna using number 12 wire. So for 3 amps, that's the actually current. You're gonna look in the table here. 3 amps is between here, but you're gonna pick 3 amps is close to which one? 3 amps is close to 2.5 or close to 4.25. So for sure it's 2.5. It's more close. Then you put those numbers into the formula. 12 volts over 6 volts, 7% over 5%, 2.5 amps. That's in the table. You actually is 3 amps. Then in this table, give you by using number 12 wire, 2.5 amps, you can go 11.5 meter. So everything together will give you the maximum distance where you can install those things. So for number 12 wire, you can go 26.8 meters. Okay, let's try some calculations down here. So battery pack the battery pack is 24 volts. It's supplying group of remote lamps. The current draw the remote lamp, we have a maximum current of 4 amps, and it's using number 10 AWG copper, and the voltage drop allowed is 6%. Find the maximum distance for the last remote lamp. So if we're using the table, you guys all have your own code book, right? You don't need to see my table. So distance equal to, we got 24 volts. The table gave us 6 volts, so 24 volts over 6 volts. We have allow 6% voltage drop, so 6% over the table is 5%. Now we take in 4 amps. 4 amps, which one is close? Oh, you guys already have the number. You guys are fast. So 4 and a quarter over 4. We're using number 10 watt, so it's 18.3 meter. Oh, sorry, yeah. 10.8 meters. That's why I said better have a ruler. .08 meters. If they didn't give it to you, yes, at least 2 of you guys pay attention. If they didn't give it to you the voltage drop, then because the code said if certified to other, so if they tell you it's 6%, then you do 6%. If they didn't tell you, you use 5%. And most of the time on the job, you will just based on 5%. But in the school, because they try to see, like in the school or on your IP exam, they try to see if you know how to use this table to do the calculation, they will give you a bunch of different number other than 5%. This one's okay? Okay, try another one. unit equipment. This unit equipment is 36 volt and has group of remote lamp with total of, let's say, 120 watts. So if using number 12 copper wire with 5% maximum voltage drop. Find the maximum distance. So first, we need to find out what's the current. The current will be 120 watts over 36 volts. Give us 3.33 amps. Then we can apply the formula. 36 volts over 6, 5% over 5%. Now we have to say 3.33 is close to 2.5 or it's close to 4.25. So it's more close to 2.5. So we're gonna use 2.5, 3.33, and number 12 wire because we're using 2.5, so 11.5 meter. John, why you got a number so big? Two and a half gave us 11.5 meter, right? Okay.
$51.8.
Yeah, 51.8. Okay, so if you're in here, when you use your own code book, you can highlight certain things on there. and whatever will help you to have a less chance to make mistake. 100% for sure, you're gonna have a calculation question on here. You might have a 1, you might have 2, because it's a randomly select from a bank. But for the emergency power work, you will have a smaller section in the code, so few questions. And that's all for this topic. I think I covered most of stuff. I believe I also changed the exam time. I changed the time to 80 minutes, so I give you guys an extra 20 minutes to do the exam. The exam will be tomorrow morning, starting at 7:30, and you have to get into the exam before 8. If after 8, you're probably gonna have a so let me just take a quick look, because I want to say something down here. Is 40 questions, and you got 80 minutes. Just try to confirm that, because I like to keep my promise.
Thanks, Jack.
Yeah, I don't want to suddenly you guys said, oh, I only got 80 minutes to do the exam. Okay, yeah, it's 80 minutes. I want to mention one thing. You still need to be able to manage your time, because actually last exam, I didn't check the guys. One guy, I'm not gonna mention the name. He sent me email, because first we actually have the problem. 2 people they got somehow they got kicked out of the exam. They called me, so I did something to let them go back in. Then another guy sent me an email. He said, "Oh, Jack, I was doing the exam. I got kicked out." So I thought that maybe same thing happened to him. So I extended the time for him to get in. Then I found out he already passed the 2-hour time period. So I will say, probably I will check next time, little bit careful. If you're already reaching 2 hours, I'm probably not gonna let you go into the exam anymore. But for this one, you got 80 minutes, so manage your time wisely. Most question is pretty easy. The print reading question will be slightly challenging, right? Because that's a pretty complicated drawing, and it depends on the question. You got to ask some question you have to actually look on the drawing. So suggestion is you get a good piece of drawing print out, because some of those drawing might not showing on your exam for some questions. Or let me see if you guys got a good piece of drawing. Yeah, you have a good piece of transfer switch drawing. So here's the drawing on D2L. You will have this drawing. It's pretty clear, pretty easy to see. You can print this one out, or you can at least have it somewhere. I think the best way would be print this one out. It's much easier to read, much easier to follow. Yesterday, I go into the exam. I tried, and some of the drawing on inside the exam for this drawing, it's not look nice as this one. So you better have this one print out to be ready to go with the exam. Other than that, we're gonna take in. Yeah, that's the case because when lots of people doing the exam at the same time, and also depends on internet connections. Where can you find the definition for the symbol? You only have some notes at the bottom. That's it. You so that's the notes at the bottom. We give you those things. Or if you want to know the detail, you can go to, let's see, other PDF file, right? Those PDF file, we tell you a bunch of more things. So you guys are lucky it's an open book exam. And also you will have another PDF file. We're also showing you when the power returns, what's gonna be happen down there.
And you also suggested that we would print out the regulated battery charging circuit.
Yes, you're gonna. There's a question from that circuit gonna ask you. Okay, so I know some of you want to get a coffee break. That's totally fine. We will take a coffee break. I will come back here. Let's say 9:20 back here. And I think I covered everything. Not everything, mostly. I would say I covered more than 90% for your exam. And if you have a question, come back at the 9:20. I will try to answer your question. Otherwise, if you want to just try do your study from your notes or try the online quizzes or anything, it's up to you. Okay, so let's take a coffee first. See you guys back here at the 9:20. If you like to see me, or if you hate me, you don't need to come back. Okay, some of you are still here. One guy asked me to do internal resistance. Okay, two battery parallel connected. Each battery have an internal resistance of 0.07 and can deliver 10 amps. Oops. Each battery is 12 volt, 200 amp hour. What's the maximum resistance connected to the load without exceeding those rating? Okay. So, the 200 amp hour in this question is actually not too relevant. The thing down here is each battery is 12 volts, so in parallel, you still got 12 volts down here. Then each battery have a maximum is 10 amps, so the low maximum can draw is 20 amps. But the terminal voltage, because when you draw 10 amps down here, you're gonna have a 0.7 volt drop here, 0.7 volt drop here. But because they are in parallel, so the terminal voltage from here to here, if I put in a voltmeter, you're gonna only measure 12 subtract 0.7 equal to 11.3 volts. For that 11.3 volts, in parallel 20 amps, so your low will be 11.3 divided by 20. We give you 5.65 0.565 ohms, I believe. That makes sense? Yeah, so 200 amp hour is actually, they try to trick you, got nothing to do, because that way relate to how long those battery can last, but all they try to do is just the voltage drop, then find the resistance. Because each battery is 12 volts in parallel, so the open circuit voltage, your open circuit voltage is 12 volts, but when they draw maximum amp 10 amps, the internal resistance we got 0.7 volt drop. The internal R internal is 0.07. The maximum current is 10 amps. So the internal voltage drop will be 0.07 times 10, 0.7 volts. So when you hook up a low, The load we never say 12 volts. The load only we say 12 subtract 0.7. That makes sense? But this two is not connecting in series, right? Those two are in parallel. So each of them. Yeah, as long as you can get the same answer. Any other question you guys have? What type of battery? It depends on industrial using. You saw the picture for those big battery bank. They probably use those lead acid battery. For smaller UPS, you will use those sealed or AGM batteries. Because if you have a large battery bank, you're probably gonna choosing the one have more capacity and the one it's less expensive. That's why you will use those lead acid battery. But for smaller UPS like a portable equipment, when you buy one for your own house, you're not gonna have a lead acid battery inside. Yeah, those lead acid battery is located outside. I think yesterday when we go through that PowerPoint, I think there's some picture shows the battery bank or let's see if I can find the one. The battery. Capacitor can only hold that for a very short moment. They're not gonna be enough to supply or meet the demand for the emergency power. So if you have a UPS system and those large industrial or commercial using the battery will be separate in either battery cabinet or battery rack. And also, I think they showed you that will be the external battery rack, how they put all the battery together, and the UPS will be separate from there. The capacitor usually used in the electronic circuit for holding the power for a short period of the time. Some of the device, if they need, they will use capacitor for, let's say if you have a transient. So because even your UPS using the static transfer switch to changing from either the normal power to the battery power, that still have a really short moment, even 1 millisecond, 2 millisecond. For sensible electronic equipment, even that 1 or 2 millisecond might causing some data loss or something. So in those type of the case, you either use a online one is always there, or you will use a large size capacitor just to hold the power for a very short moment, then doing the transition. But you cannot enough to supply the power. Let's say, can you use a capacitor to supply a remote lamp? No. I guess I'm now gonna see you guys for after you guys this exam. I'm not gonna see you guys for the next 3 weeks. You guys will have a fire alarm, then PLC and electronics. Then I will see you guys in July 12th. Yeah, I'm gonna make you cry in trade concept. No, you're welcome. I think I just did I tried to do my job, right? My job is here to show you, to teach you some basic thing of these trades and help you pass. Jeff's teaching VFDs? No, I think he's teaching fire alarm. There might be a gap training. Maybe Jeff's teaching VFDs. You need that table to do that, but you will not have this type of question on the exam because you need a base on. I think that's the one for the battery. Yeah, you need this table. They have to give you a drawing to do that calculation, but don't worry about it. You're not gonna have an exam, this type of question on your exam. Yes, I always think the IP is actually a pretty important thing. So you want to get started as early as possible. Like you guys also, did you guys get that code practice? Or what do I call that book? The book is called have a bunch of code questions in there. Because at the end, code is the most majority part on your IP. So you want to get. I never saw anyone they did really well on the code cannot pass the IP. So if you know the code, you will pass the IP without any problem. I think there's a code book called Practice Code Practice or something. It's have a lot of questions on there. And also there's an online one. You can practice those IP questions. I think also because the harmonized curriculum released by the ITA, they put so many new topics in there. And now the whole province, all across the institution, the IP passing rate is dropping. So some school, someone you try to fighting with the ITA, said your curriculum wasn't right because you need to give student more time, like especially spend more time in the code to prepare for the IP. Let me see. Because I never teach year 4 code. But there is a book. What's that book called? In trade concept, we go over those calculations you learned from level 1 all the way to level 3. But that's just part of the trade concept, right? On your actually IP exam, there's not a lot of calculations. So I talked to the guys that finished IP just last term, the term before. They said calculation probably less than 15 questions. You need to do calculations. So you have 100 questions, less than 15 questions, you will do calculations. And most people will say, most people tell me that between 7 to 10 questions, it's a pretty simple calculation, not like a complicated calculation questions. But yeah, at the end, we will do code and the trade concept together. I still gonna give you a review. Mm, let me check the homepage. I think for a while Jeff said something about there's a book you can go get it. What's that one called?
Jack, I think you mean the CE code exercise book.
Yeah. The CE code, Canadian code exercise book. They have a few hundred.
Yeah, 240
Yes,
questions.
and also I think Jeff said you can get a hard copy from the SE1 building. If you're ever passing by there, they put a bunch of their.
Yeah,
in
there's
there.
one. There are bound booklets for the code questions and also electrical concepts.
Yes.
Yeah.
Thanks. Yeah, that's the one. I try to looking for the name. I just.
Yeah, there's a box just in the foyer, or at least there was. I don't know. I went 3 weeks ago.
Yeah. And next week I will go there. If I saw they don't have enough, I probably will put an extra down there also. Yeah, because if a battery, if they have to be using in the cold weather application, so they have those kind of rating. And deep cycle battery usually is the marine battery, and the marine battery, uh, they have a larger the number, compare the number, the marine crank amp will be higher than the cold crank amp, but marine battery they not gonna be suitable for very cold condition. It's the kind of the internal how they made them make some of the battery we have a when they have a good you compare to a marine battery with a battery using in the automobile in the car. The one used in the car usually we have a better number. If you're just comparing the cold crank amp, the one used in the car will have better that number. But if you just compare to when you compare them for the at the 0 degree starting or above for the marine crank amp, and for sure the marine crank amp for the battery using the boat will be better one than the one used in the car. At the same time, the marine battery, because they're using on the boat, they will be able to handle deeper discharges. That's why we call them the deep cycle one. And then the car, because you just used to start the car, all you care is at the beginning they can supply that amps, and they're not gonna be keep keep in the starting stage for very long. That's why the battery made a difference, but how different they made, I don't think we need to care. Yeah, even in the PowerPoint, they give you those informations. Don't worry about them. Because we are just the electricians. We're not the engineer try to designing those batteries. Yeah, they can run longer, or they can discharge to a much lower level. I think usually, I think I saw somewhere it says uh, yeah, they can last longer because they designed to handling more cycle, and they also, I think usually a battery they call if the capacity drop to 80% or something, you per you kind of thinking the battery is not good anymore. But the marine battery, they usually can discharge more than that, and they can last longer. That's why I think in renewable energy, we kind of mentioned a little bit. So if you're using the battery for the solar PV system, you will choosing those marine battery for deep cycle one. I think they probably even more expensive than the regular car battery, right? Yeah, when you're talking about in the winter, probably just in BC here, especially low mainland, right? It's not that cold in the winter. If you go to maybe Alberta or Saskatchewan, Yeah, it depends. Like economy wise, refurbished one is pretty good. But other than that, people like who doesn't like the new things? We all like shiny and new, right? If we can afford it. Yeah, so in the PV system, it's always recommended to use the marine battery.
Hey Jack,
Yeah,
can you flip back a page or two to that low voltage drop? My Zoom was just it wasn't like loading or whatever. I've just switched to my hardwire, so
this one,
yeah. Thank you.
you're welcome.
That's great.
Mm, so initially, the first time you bought a secondary battery, and let's say a lead acid battery, you just add those electrolyte to the battery, and then the first time you're using to charge it, you just try to original made, but most battery you bought, they already they have to test them in the manufacturer, so they already did that. You usually will not do that. This normal is just when you use a battery, you're going to charge it. And also, like Ethan said, those things you probably can, there's a battery charging reading material. Yeah, if you want to get 100%, you probably want to do a lot of study reading, right? My point is you have a limited time, so I will show you 80 to 90% important things so you can pass the exam. Then the rest of the time I will let you to decide if you want to get a yeah. Sorry to set such a high standard for you. Okay, to make you feel better, I think you pass every time. As long as you get above 90, it's good enough. Slave driver. Uh, quiz is pretty good, but the quiz bank is pretty large. So uh, when you have lots of time, probably the quiz is a good study source. Or uh, I know you recently have a daughter, so you are pretty busy. Uh, let's say if you, but now it's passing that stage, right? So even when you're in the hospital, accompany your wife and the kids, uh, if you try down there, it's a good thing to use the quiz. But now, if you can get some class notes, I believe there's a people posting certain thing in the Discord, or they will, yeah, they were talking about the class notes. And when I told them what's important, I don't know what they post down there, because I asked you guys to send me the link so I can go there to take a look, but nobody want to send me the link. You can send me the link privately, right? So nobody knows. The handout is the handout is it's okay. So, but like I said, the most uh, if you write down or you remember everything I told you is important, you will passing this topic with no problem. Come on. I think some of you have a pretty good relationship with me, and you can send me in a private chat, right? Send me the link so I can get into the Discord to sneak on you guys to see what you guys talking behind my back. Nobody does that. Oh, I feel so sad. I imagine more things. Did anyone call me Jack the Ripper? Rip your heart open, make you cry. Oh, James, you didn't get that? Oh, come on, guys. Send to James at the same time. I can say it too. Parker. Is the Parker the group leader in the Discord? Yeah, Milan, send me the link for the Discord. You try to charge me? BCIT. Oh, Parker, you send me someone saying. Yeah, online quiz have a better coverage because I didn't check, but I think we have a big online quiz bank, and the exam question is kind of pulled from that online quiz bank. But the online quiz bank is pretty large. You have a few hundred questions in there. So that's why I said if you have a longer time, you have a longer time, you can try those online quiz. We give you a good chance to do that, but This will cause the electrolyte to separate and develop a gray specific gravity at the bottom than the top of battery. No, sulfation is different. Sulfation is you leave a discharged battery, you're not charging those lead acid battery, because when you discharge the battery, the chemical reaction will deposit those sulfur from the acid onto the lead plate. And if you leave them in discharge state for longer time, and they cannot be like through the charging process to go back to the solution anymore. That's the sulfation. And overcharged causing the electrodes to separate and develop a gray specific gravity at the bottom than the top. That's acid is being separated. I think maybe the last one. Just give me a second. Let me do a search down here. Called the stratification. That probably the I think called the stratification. Oh, you're welcome. I never said that or think anything about that part. So yeah, the quiz goes much more deeper because some of the quiz question is made by some instructor. They try to cover all the area in this one. So
Hi, Jack. I've got a question.
Yeah.
It's from the schematic diagram of the start ladder for the generator.
Mhm.
Basically, from a quiz, it asks what the ohmic value is of one of the resistors in the diagram, and I don't know how they got the answer. It's the rating of the current limiting resistor
In the starting diagram of the generator.
Yeah, so you know the Simon Maxwell ladder diagram.
Oh, okay. Give me a second. Let me open that drawing. I might have a drawing somewhere. Generator. No, that's not the generator.
It's basically the transfer
switch.
switch. Yeah.
Okay. Generator. Okay, the transfer switch drawing.
Oh.
Okay. Let me see. Which resistor they ask for?
The ask for the crank disconnect relay.
Crank disconnect relay. Yeah.
I mean, it's
okay.
hard to read what it is. It's 8.2 K and then under it 2 watts.
Yeah. So if you check on the D2L, that's a better drawing. On D2L, you go to transfer switch. Then there's a transfer switch drawing. This one.
Okay, I have the printouts from D2L. They look exactly the same.
Yeah. So in that drawing, you can actually see that's 8.2 Ks.
Right.
The 2 watts just the power rating.
Right. So is the voltage 120 or 208?
In this case, I think they use 120 as the voltage. Did they ask you for the resistor value or did they ask for the current value?
It's asking for the resistor value. So I put 8,200 ohms as the answer, and it says it's 560 ohms.
You mean in one of the quiz questions?
Yeah.
2 watts and did they ask for the coil or did they ask for the resistor?
The question's worded, what is the rating for the current limiting resistor associated with the overcrank timer?
Oh, did you find which one is the overcrank timer?
That's why.
This is the overcrank
Okay, I got
timer.
the wrong resistor.
Yeah,
Yeah. Okay. Sorry. Thanks.
no problem. Yeah. Yes. So when the utility power fail, the under voltage sensor is connected on the secondary of the PT. That's why they're gonna both get de-energized. Yeah, both, not just one, because they are open delta connected, so they will both get de-energized. And for another part, you can see for the battery side, the U under voltage sensor 1 and 2 is actually in parallel. They both go to the holdover time relay coil. So even one of them become open, you will start the timer. But they both will be de-energized. They said they will be, the sensor is just about 25% of the line voltage. So you can just to, if the line voltage drop below 25% of rated voltage, they're gonna be de-energized. I think if you guys don't have any question, it depends. Like if you're doing in the generator part, there probably a bunch of questions gonna pop up related to this one. But in the actually things, I think everyone will get about how many questions for each of you guys? You will have a 3 questions total. Yeah, 3 questions total for this print drawing reading related to this one. So try to combine question for me. Now I'm gonna skip. Yeah, just review what I told you is important. You should be okay for this exam. No skipping. Yes. But the more you try, the more you will see the actual question on your exam. That's probably true because they have a big question bank and they pull a certain question from there. Okay. Anyone have a last minute question? Yes, no?
Thanks, Jack. See you on the next one.
Yeah. You guys want to, you have a Discord, right? Or I can just leave the meeting, let you guys, if you guys want to hang in here. But if not, I will just end the meeting. Oh, did you miss my ruler? Sorry to say that. Yeah, you guys are welcome and get a good mark on tomorrow's exam. Then we got to keep working hard for the next few topics. Oh, you're welcome. It's my job. Yep, you're welcome. Sorry, Ethan. I always picking on you. Hope you don't mind. Yeah. You guys are welcome. And yeah, so tomorrow morning I will be here watching the exam. Get any difficulty, you got to kick off the exam or anything happens, give me a call. And I will see you guys in 3 weeks for trade concept. What's the number? Yeah, so that's my number. You can even post in the Discord. Okay, take care, guys, and good luck for tomorrow's exam. It's not hard if you follow me along in the class. Yeah.
Take care, Jeff.
Yeah. Well, good. Yes, okay.